occasionally where I'm from and where I've lived, so.
All right. Well, in all seriousness, we've been talking about coronavirus news here in America. That's kind of what we do here. We jump around whenever we have live events, but it's not just happening in the United States, right? It's happening across the world, around the world, and every country is kind of dealing with it in a different way. Vaccines are looking different in every country. So we want to play out a story for you that dives a little bit deeper into what countries are doing right now to combat this pandemic, just like we are in the United States. We'll play that out.
Nearly 100 million coronavirus infections have been reported worldwide, with several new COVID-19 variants driving a surge of cases. The wave of infections driving global leaders to consider new travel restrictions to curb the spread. President Biden's administration announcing Monday it's expanding travel restrictions to include non-US citizens coming in from South Africa because of a more contagious strain.
It is clearly a different and more ominous than the one in the UK, and I think it's very prudent to restrict travel of non-citizens.
Israel is temporarily shutting down its international airport to nearly all travelers, while EU officials are urging countries to reinforce testing and impose new quarantine measures.
The Commission proposes that all non-essential travel to and from high-risk areas is strongly discouraged, not only for cross-border travel, but also inside the different territories of the member states.
Here in the UK, vaccinations are ramping up to protect people against the new strains. Public health officials aim to give 15 million people, including everyone over 70, their first shot by mid-February. Moderna announcing Monday its formula effectively protects against the UK variant, but vaccine efficacy is slightly diminished against the South African strain.
Because the level of virus neutralizing antibody is still quite high, that six-fold reduction should not interfere with protection, although potentially it could cause a slight reduction.
Moderna says it's working to upgrade its vaccine formula to better protect against the South African strain. In London, Benjamin Hall, Fox News.
So definitely interesting information right there, as other countries are taking a step into not only utilizing the Pfizer vaccine, but also Moderna, right, Andrew?
Yeah, that's right, Daytona. And remember, in the very, very last remaining days of the Trump administration, they rescinded those travel restrictions for countries like the UK, like the EU, like Brazil. Just a few days later, after Biden was sworn in, they reimposed those restrictions. They chose not to rescind them because of these new variants. And so, the Trump administration did that because airlines are now requiring passengers to show proof of, a negative test or a vaccination to fly internationally. And so that was the rationale for using that. The Biden team saying, no, there's too many of these strains going on right now, so restricting travel to certain countries around the world.
Yeah, and here in America, we're seeing some of these states actually pull back on restrictions as well. So looking like a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel, and we'll keep you updated on anything coronavirus related. But stepping back into the political realm today, we saw a familiar face, Sarah Sanders, but her announcement wasn't about anything with the White House. It was about running for governor of Arkansas. Isn't that right, Andrew?
Yes, she's following in her father's footsteps, Mike Huckabee, who was obviously governor of Arkansas way back when. So it's interesting to see a former White House press secretary kind of jump into the political ring herself. It was leaked very, very late yesterday, and then this morning her Twitter account came out with her announcement video. So let's watch it.
In the pitch black of night, with no lights on the plane or runway, Air Force One touched down in war-torn Iraq. Nearby, hundreds of troops had gathered at a remote military base in the desert to celebrate Christmas. They expected to be joined by senior military leadership, but instead got their commander-in-chief. The room erupted. A young soldier yelled from the back of the room, "Mr. President, I re-enlisted in the Army because of you." And the president replied, "And son, I'm here because of you. That soldier then came over to me and said, "Thank you, Sarah. I love the way you handle yourself. You have a tough job." I politely corrected him and told him thanks. But I take questions. You take bombs and bullets. That's a tough job. The soldier silently reached up and tore the Brave Rifles patch from his arm and handed it to me and said, "We're in this together." Overwhelmed with emotion and speechless, I just hugged him with tears in my eyes and a grateful heart for our heroes who keep us free. America is great because we are free, but today, our freedom and the rule of law are under attack. I was the first White House press secretary to require Secret Service protection because of a credible, violent threat against me. We've seen violence in our streets, at a congressional baseball practice, and at our Capitol. This is not who we are as Americans. To remain free, we must have law and order and resolve our differences peacefully. The radical left's solution is to impose government control and censorship from the top down. But their socialism and cancel culture will not heal America. It will only further divide and destroy us. Everything we love about America is at stake. And with the radical left now in control of Washington, your governor is your last line of defense. In fact, your governor must be on the front line. So today, I announce my candidacy for governor of Arkansas and ask for your prayers and your support. As governor, I will defend your right to be free of socialism and tyranny, your Second Amendment right to keep your family safe, and your freedom of speech and religious liberty. Our state needs a leader with the courage to do what's right, not what's politically correct or convenient. I took on the media, the radical left, and their cancel culture, and I won. As governor, I will be your voice and never let them silence you. My dad always said, the real test of a leader is not the way you handle the issues you know are coming. It's rising to the moment in a crisis you can never plan for. I've been tested under fire, successfully managing one crisis after another in one of the most difficult, high-pressure jobs in all of government. At the table with President Trump confronting our most dangerous adversaries like China and North Korea, winning on tax cuts, the border, and judges, enduring relentless attacks, but still getting the job done. I was only the third woman and the first mom to serve as White House press secretary. And with your support, I hope to be the first woman to lead our state as governor. Arkansas is home. I grew up in Pine Bluff and Texarkana. I'm a proud graduate of Little Rock Central High and Ouachita Baptist University. My husband Brian and I started our marriage here, and this is where we chose to raise our family. Arkansas is the land of opportunity.
So that right there was a snippet of the video from Sarah Sanders. She mentioned several key points there, but interesting to note, multiple top Republicans have already announced a bid, but it looks like she is kind of the clear favorite right now in the state of Arkansas, but that'll be an interesting race, right, Andrew?
Yeah, she does have a couple primary opponents, so it'll be interesting to see what the polling looks like if she does kind of forge ahead. And she has obviously very, very great name recognition in the state, but also nationally. I mean, that ad right there kind of looked to me like a campaign ad for a presidential campaign, for a presidential run. So it was very, very highly produced. And a friend was just telling me, he gave me a fun fact and said, so Pierre Salinger was the first press secretary to run for office after serving as JFK's press secretary. He was appointed to the U.S. Senate from California, but only served a short time and was later defeated. So not a very long tradition of former press secretaries running for political office on their own.
Yep, but that will be, again, something we'll be watching here on NewsNOW. Stepping forward now into the White House. President Biden earlier today invoking some new executive actions. These are about American manufacturing, though. So let's play out this story here as we discuss what action he's going to take moving forward, especially with these new cabinet picks as well. So we'll play out this story for you.
President Biden signing a Made in America executive order to close loopholes and prioritize American companies for federal spending contracts. It's part of his plan to bring back the American economy, struggling from almost a year of coronavirus impacts.
I'm taking the first steps in my larger Build Back Better recovery plan that invests in American workers, unions, and businesses up and down the supply chain.
It was the second signing of the day. The first order rolled back a Trump administration ban on transgender people serving in the military.
And what I'm doing is enabling all qualified Americans to serve their country in uniform.
While the administration is putting pen to paper on dozens of executive actions in its first days in office, Congress still controls the purse, where negotiations are ongoing for a $1.9 trillion COVID relief bill. In a bipartisan call with the White House, some senators are concerned with the price tag.
Some of the other things, let's talk about, show us why you want that much money, and then let's talk again.
And there are Democratic concerns the additional $1,400 stimulus checks aren't targeted enough.
Will it be easy in the Senate? No, because we still only have 50 votes.
The White House says they know there will be changes before the final bill.
The president feels this is working as it should. He proposed his package. He's getting feedback. We're having conversations.
The White House is stressing a relief bill needs to be passed before additional unemployment insurance benefits run out in March. In Washington, Lauren Blanchard, Fox News.
And we brought you all of that live here today. The White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki there answering questions, and then Biden signing those executive orders into place. And it sounds like it's going to be another busy week, right, Andrew?
Yeah, just a few more announcements for executive actions come tomorrow. The New York Times reporting that several of those will have to deal with climate change, including an eventual ban on new oil and gas drilling on federal land. So the Biden administration is just in this first week in office signing lots of executive actions surrounding many genres of policy: immigration, the coronavirus, the economy from today. So we'll be following all of that here.
And last but not least, the big talker today, that article of impeachment being presented on the Senate floor. We have another story to get to on that, and then reaction from other politicians.
The initial two-week schedule for the article of impeachment accusing former President Trump of incitement of insurrection is underway. While the trial will not start until February 9th, Tuesday, senators will be sworn in as jurors. 17 GOP defections are needed to join with Democrats in order to convict. Some Senate Republicans are already arguing the trial is unconstitutional since President Trump has left office.
This is going to be really bad for the country. It's also just going to stir it up even more and make it even harder to get things done moving forward.
On the upcoming impeachment trial, Senator Marco Rubio has called it stupid. How do you respond, sir?
It's our responsibility to conduct a fair trial. I think all of us who are going to be potential jurors recognize the seriousness of our responsibilities. We also know the seriousness of what happened on January the 6th.
Chief Justice John Roberts will not preside. Instead, it will be Senate President Pro Tem Patrick Leahy, who is pledging to administer the trial with fairness.
Without objection, so ordered.
But having a Democrat senator in charge likely adds to the argument from Republicans that this is not a legitimate process and could keep down GOP defections. The new Senate Majority Leader insists this trial is necessary.
It makes no sense whatsoever that a president or any official could commit a heinous crime against our country and then defeat Congress's impeachment powers by simply resigning.
Among the concerns, the threat of another attack on the Capitol during the trial. Up to 7,000 National Guardsmen are expected to stay in Washington through mid-March due to potential threats, despite no violence on Inauguration Day. Nearly 200 who were here to protect the peaceful transfer of power have now tested positive for COVID. There's also the ongoing effort to prosecute those who stormed the Capitol on January 6th, with some concern bringing cases against the roughly 800 people who illegally entered the building could tie up the courts. In Washington, Mike Emanuel, Fox News.
So there you go, a pretty good wrap up of everything that's going on at the White House, at the Capitol. We do want to get to some of that reaction here. Andrew, you sent me over this tweet. It's interesting to hear from GOP leaders on what is going to happen with impeachment. All eyes are going to be on a lot of those leaders. We were talking about McConnell earlier, but here we have from Joni Ernst, right?
Yeah, that's right, Daytona. And that's what I'll be watching out for. How many GOP defections will there be, if any? We know there might be, one or two or three, but, Democrats need 17 to come along with them to convict President Trump, or former President Trump, rather. So that's what I'll be watching out for. You heard in that story from Mike Emanuel, Marco Rubio thinks an impeachment trial is stupid. We have Joni Ernst's statement here on the upcoming impeach trial. She says, quote, "As I've said, President Trump exhibited poor leadership and holds some responsibility for the anarchy that ensued at the heart of our democracy." So, Daytona, that is not a no on impeachment, but she's issued the statement nonetheless. We do have another statement from Senator Roger Wicker, the Republican from Mississippi, who did come out declaratively and said he will be a no on impeachment. So, and like you said, it all kind of revolves around what Mitch McConnell is going to do. Whatever he does decide to do, a lot of Republicans will fall in line and do the same. And so that remains to be seen. I mean, there's been a lot of speculation, rumor about what people think he will do. He's made several public statements kind of hedging and indicating that, yes, the president does, incur some blame for what happened on January 6th. You heard him on the floor last week that those people were fed lies by the president, and that's why they came and stormed the Capitol. But those are just words right now, and until the vote does take place with the Senate either convicting or acquitting, we just don't know.
Yeah, and so I was going to bring up that tweet for you. It looks like we're having a little bit of technical issues, but Senator Roger Wicker said that he will vote against impeachment, saying, quote, "A second impeachment trial is sure to inflame partisan tensions and could poison the cooperative spirit we need in a 50-50 Senate." And it sounds like that's kind of the headspace that a lot of these GOP leaders are in, that this is going to deflect from being bipartisan moving forward with any legislation, and instead kind of be combative if you have to put them up against each other. So
yeah, and I just wanted to mention too, CNN did an interview with President Biden today, and this is the first comments that he really made, the first direct comments about the impeachment trial itself. And we forgot to include it in these montage of tweets here, but I just wanted to mention it because it's interesting. He said he thinks a trial is necessary, that it should take place. He's a little more skeptical on if there will be a conviction. He was kind of a little sour on the prospects of that. He does not think that Democrats can get 17 Republicans to join them and convict. So you heard from the president himself saying that he's not that optimistic about a conviction. And so it all remains to be seen. What will the Senate do if they don't get a conviction? Will they hold that vote, barring President Trump from holding federal office again? They only need a 51 simple majority for that. So we'll be following it here all on NewsNOW from Fox. We're bringing you a lot of events live on the Capitol floor these days. But like you said, Daytona, it is historic.
Well, new White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki was asked quite a few of these questions earlier today from reporters, and that was played out earlier this morning. So for those of you who were maybe working today and couldn't catch it, we're going to play it out for you in its entirety here on News Now from Fox. But first, we'll send some of you off to a 2-minute commercial break. Also, if you don't already, give us a follow on Twitter at News Now Fox. You can find a lot of the breaking news events that happen throughout the day on there, as well as really great live reports from across the country. Just in the past couple hours, we've gone out to Florida, we went to
Michigan.
Arizona. What?